I want to go to Kyiv now, and Michael Bociurkiw, who's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and former spokesperson for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Good to see you again after we spoke last hour. So continuing on the theme, if we're to wrap up sort of all the comments that have been made in the past, let's say 24 hours, the Trump administration says no NATO for Ukraine, no going back to the pre-2014 border. President Trump said Ukraine could be Russian one day. I mean, it sounds as though Putin is getting everything he wants here.
Indeed, and since we spoke, I ingested a little bit more Ukrainian television, and it just total bewilderment here at what is going on, total shock. I've heard from some Ukrainian ambassadors, they don't even want to go on TV because they just don't know how to react to this. But, you know, in the past, Kim, I've called Trump's foreign policy approach gunboat diplomacy. I think I'm going to now call that schoolyard bully diplomacy. And that's the way he's going to be interacting with Vladimir Putin when they finally meet, whether that's in Washington or in Saudi Arabia. And I think that the Russians know very well how to play Mr. Putin, how to get what they want. And that's very dangerous for Ukraine. And, you know, one of your speakers just now, Evelyn Farkas, I believe, suggested that we're moving towards a situation where things are going to happen hemispherically. Trump will focus on Western Hemisphere, Vladimir Putin on this part of the world, and Xi Jinping on Asia Pacific.
Yeah, interesting. So with the two leaders now supposed to meet face to face, as you said, Trump also seems to, with all of this, be saying that relations with Russia are going to change substantially, it seems, in Russia's favor. Despite Russia having started this war, having caused so much damage, it seems as if they won't pay much of a price in terms of, let's say, reparations and so on. What kind of signal does all of this send to the rest of the world, and how is that being seen in Ukraine?
Yeah, absolutely terrible. And even when Mr. Trump was asked yesterday in the Oval Office about Mr. Putin, about Mr. Zelensky, he seemed to really talk up Mr. Putin. But let's remember, things are happening so quickly, it seems like an eternity ago, but it was only a few days ago where the Trump administration made a side deal with the regime in Venezuela, which was, you know, had no communications with the former administration. And that led to the deportation of alleged criminals back to Venezuela. And I think what Mr. Trump in his kind of transactional nature is going to be doing, because it's all based around money and resources, is maybe even redirect. I mean, this is pretty extreme, but stay with me. Redirect energy flows from my home country, Canada, back to Venezuela so they could provide the U.S. with energy. It was hard to believe, you know, maybe a month ago, but that sort of thing seems to be happening with dictators and autocrats, no matter what, how bloody their record is in the past.
Last hour, you and I were listening in as U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth again said that Europe and the U.S. NATO allies will have to do more. NATO Secretary General today said they're willing to spend more, but so far, I mean, Germany and the UK together have contributed about a third of what the U.S. has given to Ukraine. So Europe says it's ready, but is it able to actually pick up the pieces?
No, it isn't. I just did a tour of European capitals and London, and the feeling there is that there's such domestic pressures right now in terms of improving infrastructure, in terms of job creation, housing, broken medical systems, that there's very little wiggle room to up their defense spending. But, you know, this is a lot of their own doing. I mean, the European leaders were warned a long, long time ago in Trump 1.0 that they have to up their defense spending with just one or two exceptions, they haven't, and now they're paying the price for it. We knew this day would come. It's finally arrived a lot faster than we thought, and it's going to be a very, very difficult time for European security in the next while.
And a very difficult time for Ukraine, because we're talking there about military aid, but there's the other component as well in terms of foreign aid. The Trump administration has cut so much foreign aid, and a lot of that, you know, goes to Ukraine. It's already having an effect on the ground there, I understand.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because as we mentioned in the past hour, 140 Russian drones were sent mostly. I checked mostly to the Odessa region, and a lot of them targeted the port infrastructure on the Danube River. This is exactly the port infrastructure which USAID has been supporting to repair. And then the other things that are happening here, East Europe Foundation, I've mentioned them before, but they do amazing work with building bomb shelters in schools, mine awareness program, and even things like, digital transformation, putting your entire documents on phones. So if, God forbid, you have to flee, you can. All of that is coming either to an abrupt end or future funding is very jeopardized. So just quickly, what organizations like they're doing, looking more towards Europe, Switzerland, countries like that, but in no way can countries make up the 35 billion or so that U.S. has given to Ukraine since the start of the full-scale Russian invasion.
Yeah, such a huge gap there to fill. Michael Bociurkiw, great to see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.